Hey, I like that. I like that, bro. I'm trying to be like you. I like this. Is that the intro? Is this the intro?
Yep, that's the intro.
Oh, nice.
And welcome everybody to another 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe and my special guest, State Representative Dontavious Jarrells. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
No, and this is actually, I know you've been on this before, but this is the first non-Zoom appearance that you've had.
Non-Zoom.
So,
oh my goodness.
It's
and
actually
it's beautiful
nice.
outside.
It is.
You know,
it
it's
is
beautiful outside.
Well, one of the funny things, we're listening to music. Way back in the day, when the early days of this, I would always try and match music with whoever was showing up for the show.
Yeah.
And then apparently Facebook said that that's just not appropriate, just because of copyright and whatever.
Yep.
And so that actually is from a local resident that put that together.
Oh, nice. I love that.
Yeah. Still got tagged for copyright infringement, and I had to go through the whole thing.
Did you really?
Yeah. It was the it's. I think somebody, what they do is they just go ahead and just hammer away at that stuff just to make a little bit of money.
That's wild. Well, thank you to the person who did that.
Oh, no problem. It's a good thing. So we got a lot of things, and I know you're busy, and I know this year is a little bit different than other years.
I'm here for you, Mayor.
I appreciate that.
And for the people.
So February is Black History Month.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I wanted to ask specifically to everybody is what it means to them specifically, because it means something different to everyone.
Absolutely.
So when I was teaching, it was a little bit different because I taught Black history throughout the entire year because there was always something going on.
Of course.
Typically the way that I would have things worked out is we would always get to something very entertaining around this particular time. Usually for us it was basically the 55 to 70. And so, only a few things happen in terms of civil rights during that time.
That's right.
But for you specifically, what does it mean to you, especially considering your position and how much you mean to your community?
Well, first and foremost, Mayor, thank you for having me on. It's really an honor and a privilege to talk to residents and talk to you. For me, Black history is happening every single day. And I'm very fortunate and privileged to stand on many, many, many shoulders who've come before me as legislators to really fight to build an Ohio that's better than the one that we have today. And I think about that as I step into my office, not just as a state representative, but also as an assistant minority leader, where I am one link in the chain of progress that's really moving us forward. And so the work that I do is about knowing that I am attaching myself to really, really strong chains of history. Folks like Commissioner Kevin Boyce, who was state representative at the time. Folks like, our very own Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, who was a state representative and the first Black woman to be a minority leader. I'm thinking about, individuals like Tracy Maxwell Hurd and so many individuals who have really been at the forefront. Senator Sherlita Tavares, right? And so, these are leaders who are changing the fabric of our communities, and for me to be in a position that they were in, it just gives me a sense of pride and honor to know that the work that I'm doing is going to carry forward for generations to come. And so Black history is happening every day, and I know I'm a part of it, but it's about what you do with it, right? And so the responsibility is on me to really make something of the time that I have on this earth to really make sure that communities look better than the one that I had.
Well, I appreciate that, and you mentioned some of you talk about people that have made a difference.
Oh my goodness, tremendous icons.
It's not like little small things. That these are people that that we know and that we talk to and that have just made such an impact.
Oh man.
And I wonder sometimes, looking back where they're at is, I don't even know if they will realize the impact that they have until much later, just because of the fact of what they see. I know the Congresswoman usually kind of talks about it a little bit as well about those. Well, it is an election year this year, and so it's a little different in the State House how things operate in an election year. Some might say that most state representatives take a lot of time off to do the campaigning, and it is what it is. But is there actually anything going on at the State House right now to kind of let everybody know what's up, what people's business is being done right now?
Yeah, so just because we are currently in an election year does not mean that the work stops. We just had session 2 weeks ago. One of my bills was passed off the House floor, now in the Senate, that dealt with water lines, lead in our water lines. We just went through a one-time strategic investment funds that we allocated out of the House. Currently, the Senate is working on their process much further down the line.
Yeah.
So we have a capital budget that we're working through. So there's a lot happening in the legislature. What I will tell you is, there are contentious races that are happening around the state, and so we probably from now until maybe a week or two after the primary, we probably won't have session, but we may have committee. Okay. And so committee work is still going on. Our offices are always open. You can call my office at any time, and we will support you if you're in my district and want to make sure that your issues are responded to. And so, while it is a campaign season, the reality is, every single day is campaign season, yes. Right? Because the work of the people matter, and they are the ones that remember what you did for them. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really big on just keeping that at the forefront of the work that we do, and not letting that, waver just because, we out here knocking on doors and campaigning. So.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned the state capital budget and
yes.
things of that nature.
Yes.
And you may or may not see some things from Reynoldsburg in there. But then it's also that one-time, which is the big one, the
correct.
One-time fund.
Yeah, correct.
And, I know a lot of that is probably going to be held up until, I think the Senate, the last that I've heard, is they're looking at April deadlines
yes.
for submissions, which they want to get through the primary season and things.
Yep.
But talk about, the idea of a really big opportunity for cities to do things that they might not normally ever be able to do. And I keep saying that. We've had the America's Recovers Act, which, for me, that has made a big difference in the city of Reynoldsburg. We certainly didn't get as much as what we had hoped, because I know the State House kind of split some of the funds with the townships, which is fine, because obviously during COVID, everybody needed a little bit
correct.
Of something.
Correct.
But we definitely maxed out a lot of things on our side of it. And to have this other opportunity, which, don't worry, you'll see what's coming for that
right.
from Reynoldsburg. It's just a cool thing. So it's nice really that when the budget came out, everybody kind of looked at it, and nobody really knew exactly what it was going to be used for, or how it was going to be used. Yep. But now we start to see some of those things.
Well, can I break it down a little bit too? Mm-hmm. So the one-time strategic funds, it's about $350 million from the House, about $350 million in the Senate, and so the House went through our process to allocate those funds. That's our pot, and then the Senate's going to do their allocation of funds, and so. For all of you who may have, put in a bid and you didn't get your project funded, go to the Senate. It's a great opportunity to make sure that you are talking to your senators about, the importance of those projects. Here in Franklin County, we had a significant amount of funds that came from the House side into our various communities, and these are innovative projects. And so I think about one of the projects that was funded from the House was a new symphony. Mm-hmm. Right on the riverfront, the Columbus Symphony. It's going to be an amazing, attraction to really bring people from all walks of life to Columbus and beyond, right? We are looking at safety measures for downtown Columbus, making sure that we have surveillance systems and lighting and cameras where, we want to attract people into the core of the city, but really into the peripherals of the surrounding municipalities. And so I think about that, all those funds went to projects that were really, really innovative. One small project that was funded from the list of my projects was a sensory learning environment, for many of our young people who have difficulty paying attention, right? And so these are things that, we were able to use these funds to really say, what can we create that's going to have a long-lasting impact on the communities and residents that we lead and represent in the State House. And so I'm excited about, where these funds are going to go. I'm also equally excited about the local funds that we're going to be moving with the capital budget. Yeah. But again, if your project did not get funded, go over to the Senate, come back to keep advocating on behalf of the House for the capital side. We are always meeting with our residents and our individuals, businesses, communities, about what are we doing on your behalf in the State House. And so it's really fantastic to have seen the progress and the development related to those one-time funds.
Well, for Reynoldsburg, we have the interesting privilege of being in 3 different counties, so
Yep.
I have multiple representatives that I
Yes,
get to
you
talk
do.
to.
Yes, you do.
So we have something on the capital budget side for Reynoldsburg on the Franklin County side, and
Beautiful.
then we have
Okay.
something on the Lincoln County side as well.
Beautiful.
And one is the Franklin County side, because I know we have a bunch of people out there. Apparently, pickleball is just a pretty huge thing. I don't know how huge, how much you know about pickleball.
Not much. I have not played. Somebody invite me. I have not.
Don't worry,
played.
I got something later for you.
Okay, cool.
But no, it's we've talked about redoing some of our tennis courts for pickleball.
Beautiful.
Just because we have a very, very large and very, very passionate fan base for it.
Beautiful.
The other one in the Lincoln County side is actually trail connections. One of the things that we always want to do is try and make it as connected as possible, so you don't necessarily have to take a car. Right. You can walk, you can take a bike, those types of things. So I'm looking forward to seeing that coming about. Now, it is an election year, but you are voting on other things. I know, we've got a number of items other than the state capital budget and things like that. But what are some of the things that you're looking at after you get done with this season? Because obviously the work will go on. What things are we looking to do at the House this year?
Well, I think the biggest thing of all is our marijuana. Issue 2, to the voters who voted on Issue 2, thank you. It is now currently the law of the land. And the House and Senate are currently working on some sort of compromise to figure out, how do we want to really make sure that while we are thinking of recreational marijuana and the legalization of it in a way that makes sense, we also look at expungement. Because we talk about Black history, thinking about the number of individuals. I'll say this stat. So African Americans make up about 15% of the Ohio population. How many individuals incarcerated in DRC are Black?
Let's see. If I saw some of the numbers from when I was teaching, I can't remember. I think those are more nationwide numbers. I mean, it's probably got to be in the 70th percentile.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, that's Franklin County. 46%.
Okay.
46% of those incarcerated in DRC, which is the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, are Black. And when you think about it, when you break it down, the majority of them are Black men, and a lot of those cases are related to drugs, and particularly marijuana. And so the expungement process, I think, is really important. And so obviously, that's one thing that is on the horizon. I think personally, there's a number of bills that we are all pushing across the GA. With my colleagues, many issues related to environmental justice, like lead lines. I have a bill that's over in the Senate currently that's dealing with, and this is something really unique, pay stubs. Ohio is one of the only states left in the country that does not provide, employers are not required to provide pay stubs.
Interesting. See, we have an opposite thing here, is we're actually trying to get rid of our auditor's office from giving us paper pay stubs. We want it electronic just so we can have it.
Right, I get that.
Yeah.
But can you imagine not getting a pay stub?
I would feel like there's a big difference between not getting a piece of paper versus not getting like some sort of notification, whether it's through. I know a lot of places. My son works at a couple places where it's like you get it through an app and they have it through there.
Correct.
Not that I don't trust big businesses sometimes, but yeah, I kind of want to see where that dollar amount's coming from.
But one of the things about pay stubs is that you're required to many times submit your pay stubs as part of your eligibility for many programs, like utility assistant programs, rental assistance programs, and if your employer doesn't provide those pay stubs, then you are locked out of those opportunities. And so my bill, which is a bipartisan bill, it's in the Senate. I'm hopeful that it will make it across the finish line, because I know that there are residents in my district who are counting on their pay stubs to get connected to those supports. And so those are the types of bills, all of us, each of us as members of the delegation, but also just across the spectrum of our caucus, we all have really great bills that we're trying to push. And many, for folks who don't know, we have up until about May to introduce bills. Now, technically, we can introduce bills past that point, but if we want to have a hearing on those bills, we have to introduce them within that time frame. And so a lot of us are working through bills that we are trying to tighten up and get right before we introduce them, so that we can hopefully have a spirited debate to get those bills passed out the House and hopefully over to the Senate to be also debated and hopefully passing a law. So.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like how how a bill becomes a law. It's not that different from what the old cartoon was, but at the same time, But at the same time, there's different aspects, especially in Ohio, when you have because let's say the House has not always been as united.
Come on.
Especially this past year, and then especially moving into the election season.
Yes.
So we kind of figure out how is that going to play out moving forward with who the speaker may be or who the speaker thinks that they're going to be and how
Absolutely.
that. Which unfortunately, I get it from an organizational standpoint. I get that everybody wants to know where they are in line with certain things, but the reality is. Have those debates fine as long as the progress is moved forward on these bills. I would hate for this particular thing to stop, whether it's the state capital budget, the big dollars with the one-time funds, or even just what you were talking about, because of the fact that there's disunity amongst other people that they can't get past that to actually do the work of the people.
I in a utopian society, it would be very much all that be to the wayside. We'll just focus on people, people over politics every single day, right? Being really thoughtful about how do we help people in the state of Ohio. Unfortunately, that is not where we are. No. And so, there was an article that came out, I think under the Dispatch, where this legislative season, currently this 135th GA, is one of the least, productive GAs that we've had in history, and part of it is because of some of that gridlock. And so for me, as a member of the caucus, as a leader of the caucus, we work every single day to make sure that we as Democrats are consistently focused on being people first and really trying to fight to build an Ohio that we all deserve. And that's an Ohio where no one's unseen, unheard, or uninspired to be their best self. And so while the bickering and happening on the other side, we're united to really focus on how do we help change the material conditions of people in our various districts across the state.
And it's very interesting because I think most people, if you're not living this or paying attention to it, you would automatically assume that it is an R versus D thing. But in this case, it is not an R versus D thing. It is an R and R, and then the D's are on the other side. Can we vote on something?
Yes, please. Please.
Well, I think it's good. But I guess one question that I always have is when people come to me, they want to know who they're going to vote for. And, we all have our responses and we all have our own thoughts and, leanings towards one side or the other. But if somebody, because, you deal with a lot of young people that are going to be first-time voters.
Yes.
When they ask you, who do I vote for? After you say, well, wink, nod me, but how do you, what would you tell people who are looking at it? Where would you say that they should go to find out who they should vote for? Because that's a huge
question. That's a good question. As a Democrat, right, I'm always supportive of those that we have vetted as the Democratic Party to say, hey, these are the first ones that you should at least look at. If these don't fit your fancy, right, I would always look at the Board of Elections to see all the candidates for those races, and then really look at their websites, right? Look at if they had any screenings or questionnaires that they had to submit online. The League of Women Voters has an amazing menu of candidate profiles that individuals can look through to see which candidate best fits their ideology, their philosophy, their perspective of what they want to see. What I would also tell you is not just look at the candidate, but understand the role, right? Oftentimes people think that I'm a congressperson, right? Because they don't know the difference between a state house member at the General Assembly at the state level and a congressional member in Congress, right? Or they don't know the difference between what the county commissioners do versus what the city does and what their roles and responsibilities are. And so much of this, and I've been really out there talking to young people about, the powers and position and responsibilities I have versus a lot of other elected members, so that when you are mad that streetlights are not working, you can come to me because I'm going to always be a champion for my constituents, but that is not my responsibility technically as a legislator. It is city council, right? And so until we really begin to elevate the understanding of the complete system, then these candidates, while they're all great, individuals are still going to have some level of misunderstanding when it comes to the roles and responsibilities that these positions play on their day-to-day life. And so I'm really big on not just talking about the candidates, but talking about the positions and making sure that individuals know how these candidates impact their day-to-day experience.
Well said, because that is a huge thing. We see it all the time. I wish I had the powers that some people feel that the mayor should have.
Wave the wand.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit. Life would be a little bit more entertaining. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
It just doesn't always work out like that. Now, you mentioned, I know because I see you around, I see you in your community. But if somebody wanted to reach out to just any of their representatives in general, obviously there's a website. But is that the best way to do it? Are there other ways? What would you suggest?
I personally give out my cell phone number to people because. And I give most people the same number my grandma knows, right? And the reason why is because I want people to feel a sense of connection to me as a public servant. And now, I would always recommend individuals follow their electeds on social media because they do a lot of events. And if you wanted to drop in and talk to your representative or your elected about a particular issue that you're having, the best way is to meet them at the things that they're curating, right? Yeah. Their events or their fundraisers or anything like that. So you can stop them and say, hey, I support you, but I got a question for you, right? And so I am very big on asking members, my constituents, also what events are happening in the community, right? I try to show up everywhere because for me, I want people to know that not only am I a responsive elected, but you can come talk to me, right? There shouldn't be no fear of you coming to see me or talk to me because you pay my salary, right? You pay for the work that I do every single day. And so, what I would tell people is there's many ways for them to contact their legislators or their electeds, but follow them on social media, see what they're doing in the community, and go to those places. Yes. Because when or call them up or message them on social media, ask them to give you a call, right? I've had many people give me their cell phone numbers over Twitter, and I called them up to figure out a constituent issue, right? And so I just think there's many avenues, but definitely follow your electeds on social media to get a better sense of where they are and how you can meet them.
Absolutely. For me, my favorite is Kroger and the show when I'm shopping.
Come on.
That happens
That's it.
An awful lot. But you know what? In all honesty, I don't mind it.
Of course not.
I think that if we had half of the involvement at the local level that we do at a national level, a lot of our issues would probably be solved a lot faster.
I agree.
Just because it's not to say that there's anything bad about what goes on at the national level, but it is a national level issue.
It is.
Where most of people's issues are the day-to-day and what's in their neighborhoods and their communities.
Absolutely.
And those are the things we have to focus on. Do we have any questions that have popped up at all?
We had 2 questions come in.
I'm ready.
So the first one is, what do you think about proposing a bill to repeal the Ed Choice voucher expansion or even Ed Choice vouchers entirely?
Well, that's a great question. And what I will tell you is there are a number of bills that are moving to address the unfortunate reality that we're seeing related to Ed Choice expansion. I mean, the last budget, I did not vote for the last budget because of the expansion of Ed Choice. Now, what I will tell you is those bills, you can introduce them, but unfortunately what will happen is they will never see the light of day because of the way in which our current legislative composition is currently. But the one thing I'm going to tell you is we have a citizens, not politicians, ballot initiative that is currently getting all the signatures they need to get on the ballot. And that is going to change the trajectory of how the composition of the legislature is. Right, by putting citizens in the seat of control when it comes to how maps are drawn at the legislative level, so state house and state senate. And so what I would tell you is we can introduce those bills, they won't move, but the bigger thing that we need to do is make sure that we're changing the system overall so that we can actually build a map where those types of conversations can be debated on the floor in committees and with you, the constituent, involved in those processes. And so stay tuned. There's going to be more to come related to the citizen, not politicians amendment. But it is vital that every single person who is hearing my voice be a part of the movement that's currently underway to change and make our maps much, much more fair than what they currently are.
it's the debate that I would like to see. It's
Yes, absolutely.
Have the debate, have the debate on the floor, and then have everybody vote on its merits instead of being held aside for whatever particular purpose.
Yeah.
And it's not like you don't have the time to do these things. I guarantee you that everybody would be happy to make the time, especially if it's a bill that they're passionate
Absolutely.
about.
Absolutely.
So, what's the next one?
It says, is funding being made available to cities that have neighboring areas which have digressed? For example, Bryce Road from Livingston to 70.
Kind of.
Yes, repeat that question again.
Is funding being made available to cities that have neighboring areas which have digressed, like from Bryce Road to Livingston to 70?
Okay. What I would say is, there's two realms of funding, if you will, for the legislature. In the legislature, you have our operating budget that gives funding to counties, cities, school districts. Right? We did, even though I didn't vote for the budget, there was a fair school funding formula that increased the amount of funds that were given to public schools. We also had some COPEs and remainder ARPA dollars that we were able to allocate through that last budget. And then we have the capital budget that we're currently underway, with negotiating. And what I will say is there's always funding opportunities. We are always looking at areas we are always looking at ways in which we can invest in our communities. But it's not just simply the State House. It's in collaboration, in concert with our local municipalities, our city councils, our mayors, and our county. And so, happy to talk more about, the specifics of what that constituent is referring to. But just know that we're always investing in our local districts across the state, because that is what is the lifeblood of why we are able to do the things we do in the state and the city.
It's really kind of like what you mentioned earlier about knowing what levels of government are responsible
Absolutely.
for what. So this has been a constant thing. So I always joke with him when I see Mayor Ginther, he kind of laughs because we say this all the time. There's a certain part of Bryce Road that basically when you're on Bryce Road and you get to Livingston, on the left hand of the street is Reynoldsburg, on the right hand of the street is the city of Columbus. And I ask him at least every time, hey, let me annex that part for you. Just because of the fact that it's already, it's right across the street from us. It's an area that we know we can serve and things of that nature, because it is so far out on the fringes from, the city of Columbus, that type of thing. Because the idea is no matter what we do, there's a concern that no matter what we do on our side of Bryce Road, if the city of Columbus doesn't necessarily match it on the other side, then we're going to have issues with it. So actually I had a meeting with some people from Columbus yesterday about how to address that. And I think that's one of those things where if we come up with a plan for the city of Columbus and the city of Reynoldsburg, and then we come to you guys for whether it's state capital budget or other funding opportunities, then we can actually really work on some things. I really think that Columbus has done a really good job the last couple of years of really involving the suburban communities, the neighboring communities on things. There was a little bit in Whitehall where they actually gave out, and I can't remember, it was like 3 acres maybe or something like that, and they gave it into the city of Whitehall, and then Whitehall was able to turn it into, it's going to be affordable housing, and it benefits everybody in the region, and it was one of those things where Columbus can win for it, and then Whitehall certainly does, but in reality, the people who are going to be living in those homes win. So those are some pretty cool
and
things.
It's a bottom-up approach, right? So like it's the city, it's the municipalities communicating, working together, having a vision that they then give to us as state officials at the state level, and talk about what your needs are, and then we then support that, and then ultimately who wins the most, as you said, are the residents of those communities. And so, I'm excited about the transformation, because I'll tell you, when you look back, I came here, I'm from Cleveland, I came here in 2010, and when you look at where we've gone and how far we've gone, from 2010 to 2024, it is remarkable. Remarkable. And obviously there's still a lot of work that we need to do in our various communities. I'm just thinking about Franklinton and the South Side and places in my district, Brownsville. But just the development and the opportunity has truly just been immense. And I'm excited about the next 5 years of this region, not just Columbus, but the Central Ohio region as a whole in terms of our innovation and development.
It's a lot of cool things. Anything else pop in?
Just an update on Engage Reynoldsburg when
I'll
you're
get
ready.
to that in a few minutes. Do you have a few minutes to stick around while I go through some of the other stuff? So last week I had the opportunity to present the State of the City.
How was that?
I'm going to think it was great, but that's that's my thought.
What was your Kroger runs like?
So far it's been good. So we address things that are very serious issues to the city of Reynoldsburg.
Yeah.
It was a little bit different. It was not as much of a I don't want to say happy-go-lucky, but we have issues in
Absolutely.
our community. Housing is a huge issue for me.
Yes.
It's a huge issue for our region. It's not just localized to Columbus, so we addressed that. We talked about some of our youth violence issues.
Yes.
And there's always a concern from us in Reynoldsburg where we hear, I hear two sides of the argument. You hear, okay, let's lock these kids up forever, and then we have the other ones where, well, they're just kids being kids, and there's something in between that we have to get to.
I agree.
And so we ended up having a kind of a meet the candidate night about a week ago.
Okay.
And the three candidates on the Democratic side for the Franklin County prosecutor, they all sat and they debated the issues. And so I was able to moderate that. And the residents that showed up got a really good indication of where each one of them stood on some of those issues. And that's going to be a huge thing. So I'm looking for that. No, the rest of it, we talked about the Tomato Festival and who our musical guests are going to be. So we have our Friday night is going to be 112. And Saturday night, if you remember, band called Sister Hazel.
Who knows 112? That's the real question.
Yeah.
Who knows really 112?
Well, apparently, Councilman Stacey Baker's wife knows 112 very much. And I think Stacey's happy for his wife. They're going to be there, but then also a little mad at me because she's a very big fan.
Okay.
So we'll see how all that works out.
I'm excited about that. I'm about to stop through. I like 112.
Oh yeah, well I'll make sure and get you in there. So it's just a lot of fun. We ended up on talking about those things, and one thing that we did differently is we brought in a lot of our nonprofits. So we brought in our Heart Food Pantry, Education Foundation. We brought in our Chamber of Commerce.
Beautiful.
We brought in Joseph's Coat, which is kind of an organization that collects not only clothing but also furniture to help those in need. And so we had them in the front atrium. So while everybody's kind of chit-chatting and all that, each of these nonprofits had a chance to actually talk to them. One, I'm sure they asked them for volunteer work, but to know what kind of good work our community is already doing that isn't necessarily government related, but always, we're working together in things. So that's something that we did differently this year. So partnerships was a good thing. We had great representation from our school district. As a former teacher and board member of Reynoldsburg, I'm always going to be an advocate, whether sometimes they like it or not, because we all need, we all want great schools. And so it was a good thing overall. The feedback has been good so far. Nobody's been setting out any torches or pitchforks on the way to City Hall, so
that's good.
I'll take that. But the schools also have a cool thing going on. They do their board members do a lot of office hours. One board member does every Friday from 4 to 4:30. It's online, but then he also has that next half hour just to talk to residents. And then other board members this week we have on the 26th at 5 p.m. at our Graham Welcome Center. We're going to have a couple of board members there, and they're just there to answer questions. There's no specific topic or agenda. It could be anything from, what's our curriculum in the Reynoldsburg, because not everybody knows that. Right. What's going on? How are we addressing bullying? How are we addressing athletics? All of these different types of things to get more people involved. And so the question you heard earlier is we have a new app that's on everybody's phone now. It's called Engage Reynoldsburg.
Okay.
It is, in essence, a code enforcement app. So if you see a pothole, you can actually take a picture of it, send it into us. It'll automatically route through to exactly who it needs to go to.
I like that.
And then you can actually follow along with it as it gets fixed. And then you get notified after the fact. So, it is live. It just went live actually, 2 days ago? Yesterday. So it went live. So we're really excited about it. It's basically like hiring about 20,000 code enforcement officers.
Absolutely.
So we'll know when every street light flickers. But that's actually the point, because again, it's about getting people involved because we can respond a little bit faster.
Absolutely.
Not everybody drives every single part of the road in Reynoldsburg as far as our street staff. So if they all of a sudden know that there's potholes here, here, and here, then they know that they can plan their day to get to those areas. So we're really excited about that. We'll see how excited we are about a month from now when all of that goes in.
Now, have you had your first inquiries yet?
I've not looked. We haven't gotten anything.
Not yet.
Come on, y'all. Find them potholes. Find them potholes.
Who's going to be the first one to get the first one?
That'd be a good prize. First one.
I think we have talked about if there's somebody, because there's an anonymous feature too, because not everybody wants that attention. But for those that actually put it out there, we may actually have some kind of a comedic and just award. Yeah, thank you for recognizing.
Or the person who does it the most inquiries. That'd be really awesome. That person that's not being paid, but out there in the community, just do it.
We might know a few people that might fall into that.
I can see that.
So there's always a couple out there. Our big project this year is going to be our Wagner Road project. Okay. So if you remember, probably about maybe 8 years ago, there was a young girl on McNaughton that was walking to the elementary school, and she ended up getting hit by a car and passing.
I do remember.
And our road, Wagner Road, is very similar to McNaughton. There's a little bit of nuance to it, but one of our big things over the last, really since I've been in office, is trying to find a way to improve that, because there's no pedestrian access. Yes. We have Messiah, which is a church that has a little preschool. We've got St. Pius. We have a middle school and a junior high on there, but there's no sidewalks. And there have been accidents, and there have been people that have been riding motorcycles that have done. People who walk, I have no idea why they would walk on this road at night, but they do. So starting in April of this month, we are going to be kicking off our project. So from Broad Street to Main Street, we're going to get sidewalks on one side, pedestrian paths on the other, street lighting, gutters, all through the Ohio Public Works grants, which obviously is something that the State House authorizes.
Yes, that's very true.
And with partnering with Franklin County Engineer's Office and all of these other different entities to have it paid for, so we don't have to go out and ask the taxpayers for more. It is going to be a miserable 4 years of construction because it is a long way to go.
But how many lives are you going to be saving?
Yeah, the lifestyle factor is going to be great, and then the community amenities after the fact. You're going to be able to, because right now, if you wanted to walk from our farthest eastern to western borders, you have to take Broad Street or Main Street. Now, because of the trails that we're looking at, you could walk all the way from our furthest eastern part at the high school all the way to Civic Park, and you don't have to step 1 foot on Main Street or Broad Street. So that is our ultimate goal, and this is going to be a huge part with it. So you're going to see some town halls coming in the next couple of weeks for that, because transportation is going to be a huge issue. But you probably will also see some trees coming down in the next couple of weeks. These are trees that typically we're trying to minimize it. But most of the trees that are in there are, and I am not a tree person, but the only thing I can know is I know honeysuckle, those non-invasive and invasive species. I know honeysuckle's getting pulled, all of those things. But everything that we take out, we're going to be putting trees back into the streets when the time comes. So it may be a temporary loss, but we're going to fill those back in. So that's coming up. We have our women's defense class for our Reynoldsburg Police Department. It is for girls 12 and up, and it is a phenomenal program. My wife went through it. It kind of goes through a little bit of classroom stuff about do's and don'ts for safety purposes, and then, of course, you get to the fun stuff. You get to throw some people around. But it's led by our officers, and the women do a great job there. My wife took it. She had a blast, and it was just one of those things. It's something that we wish we didn't need, but we need it. And so this is something that is there, and, again, I encourage that. We do have a town hall tonight. This is our flood grant town hall. So Reynoldsburg has had some issues with flooding over the decades, and so we ended up getting a grant through FEMA to basically do a comprehensive study of our waterways. And so this is the kickoff town hall to kind of go through the process with our community members and go over what's going to happen, do a couple of breakout sessions for if you live in this part of town, this is what we're looking at. If you live over here, this is what it's going to be. So it'll be the first of many. So if you can't make it tonight, completely understand. There's going to be more, but it's really to address it.
It's beautiful.
It's a combination of issues we ended up getting 4 inches of rain in 90 minutes just over Reynoldsburg. So when you look at the cell, normally you see it kind of moves away. This just kind of hovered right over here. 4 inches in 90 minutes, and when you walk out, basically, you'll see the sign where it says Mayor. The water was at the top of that sign.
Wow.
So that's part of this issue. So we have to work, with developers in the city of Columbus to make sure that when we're building what we're building, that we understand how the water is going to flow from there, but then also making sure that our residents are prepared for some of those cool things.
Absolutely.
So, got that going on. Parks programs, these are always fun that I have no artistic talent whatsoever. This Sunday, the 25th, we have the wooden bookmarks. They actually create wooden bookmarks for everybody. It's going to be at our senior center from 2 to 3:30. Our stained glass approach is going to be kind of a continuing series, so you can make some stained glass starting in March 7th through the 25th. And then this is a fun one because it's going to kind of get people interested in what's going to happen over spring break. We have a STEM enrichment challenge night. So everybody's going to come in and learn a little bit about STEM education, but it's going to be a preview, so that way if you like it, then when everybody in Reynoldsburg's on spring break, they will have classes that entire week, so you can kind of join in with that.
I used to build robots back in the day, first robotics competition. I actually had a whole team called the Go Bodies.
The Go Bodies, okay.
The Go Bodies, that was my team.
Our team in Reynoldsburg is technical difficulties.
Okay.
Which fits really well.
It's real. It fits really well.
We had them on. They're actually getting ready to go and do their, it's coming to that that season right now, so we're looking forward to that. But I didn't know that. It's cool.
Yeah.
We also have council stuff, which is not the most exciting thing, but it is cool. In collaboration with the City of Columbus, we are actually going to be creating a brand new park.
Oh, great.
It's going to be off Bryce Road. It's going to be called Bryce Park until Mayor Ginther wants to call it Mayor Ginther Park or something. I don't know. But it's going to be Bryce Park. Right now, it's kind of a stormwater retention, so kind of but we're going to put some trails in. We're going to redo all of the plantings and put some more trees and make it more of a passive park, which is right across the street from our brand new library that's going to be opening up probably, I'll say April, May-ish. So that'll be something that'll be there. So we're looking forward to that. We do have a Sheetz that is now under construction. I'm sure you've heard a couple of Sheetz around there. It's on the corner of Taylor and Main, and so they are moving fast on that one. So keep an eye out for that. So you mentioned earlier about pickleball. So on March 23rd, our Chamber of Commerce is having its actual pickleball instructional thing. So they're going to basically, it's kind of like to get some people together.
Is this a small?
Yes, it is a small. Yeah, so you don't really have to move very much, which is good for me at my age. It's a little bit different, but I have been asked to come out there and play. But it's
do a celebrity match.
That's that would be
a celebrity match.
There we go. Now people are already thinking about that. But it's cool. It's a networking opportunity for our local businesses to kind of come in and see what's going on, but then also to kind of meet some of the other community members and things of that nature.
Beautiful.
We also have our Easter egg hunt. It's 10,000 eggs, and it's going to be, where's the date? March 30th. So we got a little bit of time, but it's held by the Reynoldsburg Lions Club, and we always participate right next door for it. It's a lot of fun. It's really nice because they have it broken down into age sections. Because there's some people that are a little bit older that move a little bit faster and they want to just inhale those types of things. But it's really cute to see the young ones as they pick up one egg and then sit down and try and eat it when their parents are telling them, no, get more, because the parents need to have a little bit extra candy.
I understand.
Yeah. Beyond that, we have our community cleanup day on the 27th. We're going to have respectful flag disposal, expired medicine disposal, bike donations, bulk throwaway, shredding, electronics disposal, all of that type of stuff. It's our annual community cleanup day, so it's a lot of fun with that. We're also going to be kicking off a litter initiative this year because litter is a problem everywhere in every corner of everything.
Absolutely.
You know what's funny? Have you ever asked anybody, did they litter? And have you ever met somebody that says yes?
No one says yes.
No one ever says yes because they all know, but strangely enough, somebody does.
Somebody does it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
not them though.
No, it's not them. They got a friend, but that'll be there. So, do we have any questions of anything coming up? I know we got the Engage Reynoldsburg.
We do have two questions. First one, does the City of Reynoldsburg offer any grants for private foundations or grants for first-time homebuyers?
No, we don't, unfortunately. So we are very limited in what kind of grants we offer. We do have, the last 2 years, we've used some ARPA funds for minority, female, and veteran businesses, and we've done really well with that. But as far as the first-time homebuyers things, however, I do know the federal government has a lot of programs for that, especially.
And if I can just
please,
jump in,
yes.
House Bill 33, which is our last year's operating budget, we did have some programs for first-time home buyers that were passed in that budget and signed into law by our governor. And so check at our state site. We're happy to send you any information, but there will be programs coming online very soon, if not already online, from the state related to supporting those first-time home buyers.
Yep. And I remember seeing something about it. I think it was Senator Huffman's big thing.
It was.
Working on that. So, yeah.
Are there going to be will there be a pedestrian crossing at Bryce similar to the high school? So I'm thinking from the library to Bryce Park.
Yes, that part's in the design stage. But yeah, we want to get something because you need to have something that flashes really bright just to make sure. So they have something there right now, but I think we're going to do something a little bit closer, like by our Livingston campus, where it's one of those things where it looks like the 4th of July when somebody's walking, everything's bright and all of that. Yeah, we want to make sure that it's there. The question is just we want to make sure where we place it. So on the corner of Bryce and Main, we have a brand new development that's going in. So if you drive down Main Street, you'll see a big dirt on the ground. Former Kmart building, so we have a big multi-use facility that's going there. It's going to be first floor retail, some restaurants, convention space, and all of that. And then right next door to that is the library. Right across the street is the park. So there's a lot of cool things going on in that Bryce Road corridor. So, but that is a good question.
And then the website you had mentioned for first-time homebuyers. Could you be a little bit more specific about what that?
So what I can do is send the information over to the mayor, and then he will send it out in one of his reports.
Yes.
Or his
We can
newsletters.
comment in the question here on the live feed.
Absolutely.
Perfect,
I
thank you.
know it. I just can't remember what specifically where that.
I don't know which agency. That's why I was trying. If it's Department of Development or another agency.
The last thing I want to do is send somebody to a website with very vague things, because that would get very frustrating.
I agree.
That's it for right now.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you very much.
Of
I appreciate
course.
it. It was great to have you here, especially in live and not in Zoom and things of that nature. Thank you for doing your good work. You mentioned lead, which thankfully is not an issue that we see a lot in Reynoldsburg, but that's not to say that it's not needed elsewhere. I mean,
absolutely.
Here it is, 2024, and we're still talking about lead.
Still talking about
I
lead.
remember when I was growing up, people were talking about it, and the jokes of, that person ate too many lead chips when they were growing up type of thing. We're still dealing with this now. That shows that there's some systematic things that need to be improved on. So I appreciate your good work for our community on that.
And Mayor, thank you so much for inviting me again. You have been just a consistent champion of transparency. The fact that you're doing this and you inviting folks like myself on and so many other elected officials, but just community leaders on, it just is it shows your heart and your compassion for the residents of Reynoldsburg. And I just want to say thank you. I also want to tell you, early vote has just started today.
Yep.
So make sure, if you don't want to go stand in them lines during, off March 19th, you have the opportunity to vote from now until March 19th for early vote. But go vote.
A lot of good things. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you coming.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. Next week, our guest is School Board President Angela Abram. So she and I are always going to have a good conversation about schools.
Good.
But in the meantime, stay safe, stay respectful. And for me, my big thing is always putting our shopping carts away. Drives me absolutely insane when nobody does that.
Well, let me put it away for you.
There's very few There we go. You get the points. First one that's ever done that. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you.
See you later, everybody.